Alright guys, this is a artist rendition of what Homo heidelbergensis would have looked like, so I'm going to kind of use him. This is the first of 3 videos, so hopefully sit back and enjoy. Alright.
Beginning of class talking about this map up here, just not that you get to know these dates, but just do realize the central area that Homo erectus evolved from, and then kind of the movement. A couple important things that I want you to make sure to note. So number one, the species evolved for 1 million years, okay? That's a long period of time. When you think about it, how much longer our species has been around, it's a lot longer than that. They went out in early Africa first. So Homo erectus died out 500,000 in Africa and stuck around a lot longer in Asia. And we can think about that. The reason is that they originated, the modern humans are originating in Africa, and they outcompete the Homo erectus, and it takes them longer to get to Asia. And without serious doubt, we do know that Homo erectus would have been an ancestor to modern humans. When you make the comparisons between Homo erectus and Homo habilis, you can see the teeth are going to continue to get smaller. The reduction of the size and relative to the brain case is going to decrease when it comes to the face and jaws in Homo erectus. Okay, the brain's going to get much bigger, and then we're going to even better at upright walking with arms that are more natural to our size. Once again, much better upright walker. And here's just kind of some characteristics that for Homo erectus. These are just some imagery. Notice how living, you can see the kind of the shelter in the background, the use of fire, use of a bunch of different tools that are available. So much more complete idea of what they are. Still, the hair issue is not necessarily known, so they could be one or the other, but it's just kind of interesting to look at kind of their what they would have been like. And once again, this is a direct descendant to this. So just as a summary, this is just what we kind of had on those other diagrams. The species spread from Africa, Europe, and Asia by 1.7 million years, so it did travel a lot. They had a big brain. They used tools. They had a much better social structure. They had fire and some evidence of clothing. And once again, direct descendant of modern humans. What we typically think of as modern humans, Homo sapiens, they arrived around 500,000 years ago. The translation for Homo sapiens literally means wise man. And when you look at them, they don't have the lifetime that Homo erectus. Homo erectus traveled a bunch, was around a lot further. So it gives you an idea how advanced Homo erectus was at its time. Granted, modern humans are going to be much more advanced and kind of eliminate the Homo erectus, but we haven't been on the planet as long as they had. And when we talk about firsts, we mentioned a lot of first things. They could do stuff like paintings. Now, I want you to really think about what paintings would mean, what kind of thought process would be necessary. A lot of abstract thought would be necessary in order to have that kind of intelligence. Now, there is some kind of debate on the origin of where these things came from, and once again, it has to do mainly more with not necessarily science, but just more people's personal beliefs. So, we believe that Homo sapiens did originate in East Africa again, just as Homo habilis and Homo erectus had before them. There are some people who have different ideas on this. They tend to be more controversial and not as accurate. So we'll look at those here in a second. It's important to realize when we look at this, the oldest fossils are in this East African Rift Valley. Once again, we believe that they were able to move out to different areas. They're going to merge and meet other prehistory people like Homo erectus, Homo heidelbergensis, and things like that. So let's take a look a little bit better at these different ideas. So these are basically 4 ideas on how we think they could have possibly evolved. Now, I want us to look at this. The first thing is that this first idea that people of European descent, African descent, and Asian are three different species. This theory has been disproven to be 100% incorrect. It can't be. It's more controversial. You can kind of think of what type of individuals would want to support this idea that people of African, Asian, and European descent are different species. What social ramifications that might have, right? People who might think of them as better than others would really be more likely to adopt this theory. But scientifically, this has been proven incorrect. The second idea is that we evolved independently 3 different times, and but they were able to intermingle and interbreed together, still giving this idea that there are 3 separate species with advantages or disadvantages to both. Once again, this idea is a pretty controversial one and has pretty much been thrown out. The DNA evidence does not support this theory at all. So once again, for our class, we're going to say that these 2 theories are not likely or not possible. That gives us these last 2 theories. If you notice, look really carefully at those 2, they're very similar. There's just a small difference. And that difference is those arrows right there. They're lacking here and here. So basically the idea is that from this lineage, we have one, from Africa, we get species that evolved. Now, in this theory, there was no breeding with Homo erectus and Homo neanderthal. In this theory over here, we say that Neanderthal has some genes, and people of European descent, people of Asian descent have some Homo erectus DNA or genes. When we're looking at the fossil record over time, that seems to be more of the likely scenarios, that there were some intermingling of those previous groups. Homo sapiens did appear in Europe around 130,000 years ago. When they were discovered, it was in 1856, and it was in Neander Valley in Germany, so therefore they called these first people Neanderthals. The Neander is the river, Tal means valley, so basically they were translated as the Neander River Valley people. And they were powerful built, stocky. I always think of, if you think about like a wrestler, short, very muscular. That was the kind of look that the Neanderthal had. Their environment was very hard to live in, very cold, ice age, very rough, so they needed kind of a rough and tumble body in order to survive there. They did have larger brains than modern humans do today. Once again, that does not necessarily mean more intelligent. Things like complexity and interactions of the neurons are going to factor in, plus you got to do it in comparison to body mass. And this is what a artist rendition of what a Neanderthal might have looked like, so you can kind of see their general characteristics and what they kind of look like. And here's what a Neanderthal would look like with a costume on. Okay. So Neanderthals, they were found out in Africa, Asia, and Europe. A lot of times we associate them mainly with Europe, but they were found throughout. There's their range. It did mainly include Europe, but once again, there were parts of Africa, Middle East, and parts of Asia as well. A couple firsts for them that you need to take note of. They did bury their dead. They buried it with food, weapons, tools, and even flowers. And you got to think about what this would mean. I mean, they buried their dead with these items. Why would you do that? Why would you pay such close attention to death? Most of you are figuring out it means that they have some belief in an afterlife. And if in order to have that concept or idea of after death there being something, you're going to need to have some pretty abstract abilities. And that's going to require a pretty good brain, pretty intelligent organism. So these creatures, though they may appear to be what in modern culture we call a caveman, these individuals were very intelligent. Because of these, and we know that based on this information here about them burying their dead with items that they may need in the afterlife. So they did have some abstract capabilities. And then you can kind of see here just some comparisons between modern humans and Neanderthals when it comes to shorter, stockier, larger rib cage, powerfully built individuals. They did go to Western Asia between 29,000 years ago. They were most adapted for the cold environment. And one of the things that they had was a large nose. That large nose was very important to help in those cold climates warm and moisten the air as it hit the lungs, allows them to hunt and run around in very cold climates. They would have been much more muscular, once again, more of a kind of like a wrestler. I always think of Randy Orton or Kurt Angle. That's the guy pictured up here. He kind of looks like a caveman or a Neanderthal. But what's interesting is there actually is some signs that we have DNA of Neanderthals in our own DNA. As you can see from this article, 20% of the Neanderthal DNA is still around in our DNA. You can actually have this sequenced. Typically, anyone who's not from African origins will have about 1.5 to 2% of the DNA will be from Neanderthal. Ozzy Osbourne, pictured here, actually submitted his DNA and found out a pretty good chunk of that. He had some pretty clear Neanderthal genes. So we do think it's more of a simulation that humans and Neanderthals and that modern humans just had a little bit better DNA. Kind of a nice little picture of a Neanderthal. Notice they were thicker build, had a lot of clothes, did use some weapons, items like that. I like this image here that represents Neanderthal. Number one, it shows the community atmosphere, living around fire. These individuals in the back here, right there. Notice how they're looking at the stars, probably going to indicate that they were believed in some form of the afterlife, and there's a lot of different major animals kind of living there that they could hunt and kill, the use of tools and clothes, all those things that are common in Neanderthals. And then just another artist's rendition of what they may have looked like. This is the actual skull of a Neanderthal, thicker, once again, and a lot of times these fossils that were found had some injuries and just broken bones, showed how tough that these individuals actually were. Modern humans are going to eventually come about around 34,000 years ago as modern humans kind of replace the Neanderthals. We think that they were able to breed, interact with, and then in doing so, a lot of the Neanderthal genes were kind of disappeared. The modern humans were big game hunters. They would chase and hunt bison all over Europe and Asia. They also had a complex social organization. And we know for a fact they had a specific language that was very sophisticated. They eventually reached North America around 13,000 years ago, as we talked about with the North American megafauna. And once again, it was due to the ice receding in North America. They had these paintings and drawings, once again, a lot of abstract thought. It shows a level of intelligence, all those types of things. Now, I think this is kind of important as you take a look. I want you to be able to draw a simple phylogenetic tree, evolution of primates, all the way to modern humans. You probably should do that as a good practice. This is just kind of a list of the organisms that you need. That's all I have for this first video. I will be posting another one here in a little bit. Thanks. Bye. That should be out, by the way. That's all your notes, and you should be able to finish all your review guides now along with that.